Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumed Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today I want to speak about all the social triggers to get you into the flow state. Now these are also called group flow or group flow triggers. So let's get right into it. So the first group flow trigger is about serious concentration. You want to concentrate seriously, meaning you have to be committed to what you're doing. You can't be half in and half out. You can't be a dabbler. You can't be half a gangster, as Tyler Durden says. Just like you can't be half pregnant, you can't be half into what the task is in terms of getting you in the flow state. Concentration is required because if you don't fully concentrate and you're moving around, let's say you're doing a sport, you might get injured. So there is this sense of being aware of your surroundings and being aware of the group around you. So when you're playing a sport and you're in group flow, you're very aware of your teammates as well as your opponents, okay? You're aware of all the other people around you. You understand how far away from them you are, and you understand their strengths and weaknesses and things like that. So if you start to lose your focus, you can be overrun by your opponents. However, if you put your maximum attention in the here and now, you'll start to notice that timelessness taking place, and you will be able to block off any other distractions that are going to put you away from the zone, like the screaming fans in the crowd, or someone stopping it at halftime and telling you something that distracts you, right? A weird remark in your ear tries to distract you away from the present moment. It's about you to play your best and perform your best at when you're doing that, and also feel good. So if you have one of those imbalance, like let's say you're performing well but you're not feeling good as you're performing well, that's going to impact your performance. And if you're not performing well, then it's going to impact your feelings as well. You want to maintain this serious concentration. Secondly, you want to have shared clear goals. Let's say you're working for a company, you have a clear outcome, you have a solution that you guys are going to get towards. And once you have that one flag that you mark, X marks the spot, once you have that, then it's very easy for you to have a leader organize it, or also be able to understand that, okay, all these people, I don't really have to work hard at explaining things to them, right? They're going to understand that there are these very clear goals. The next one being good communication. So you want to speak in a way that's clear and concise and in the language of the particular niche or the industry that you're working in. So you have a specific language and a jargon that works for them, and also you want to understand that, yes, you have to speak without a filter. However, at times we do need a filter. So it's being able to calibrate by bringing up the filter and bringing the filter down. A lot of the times we're holding ourselves back, and censorship is a big issue nowadays. So really being able to understand where you can fully say what you want to say and fully express it to the best of your capability will put you in the flow state. And as you're speaking authentically and from the heart, and just being able to get your message across to people. That's the most important thing, is people have got to be interested in what you're saying. By being interesting, you have to be interested, okay? Good communication is very key, and nothing blocks a group flow from happening if you're negating someone or saying bad-mouthing someone or ignoring someone or labeling someone in the group or pushing someone away, picking a person last on your team. That's going to affect the group self-esteem. Essentially, you want to be, first of all, inclusive to be exclusive later. Then you move into familiarity. If you walk into an environment hey, I've been here before, or these people resonate with me, there's going to be a sense of effortlessness and ease associated with that. So you want to be familiar with people. You want to be around like-minded individuals. Everyone in this group are on the same page, and there's a sense of camaraderie and familiarity there. I know these guys, when you suddenly feel like you start to make a new friend and you immediately feel like, man, this person's a weirdo just like me, and you immediately get that sense of familiarity and connection with them. This is what I'm talking about here. The next one we're talking about is equal participation and skill level. You can't put amateurs and experts together. This is why we have different levels in a video game, where you have expert mode, intermediate mode, and easy mode. If you suddenly start playing easy mode against an expert bot, for instance, the bot is going to demolish you in a sense. However, let's say you have a team where everybody has an equal participation level and skill level. Everyone's giving it their all, and also they're in that very level of skill that you're in. Now you're going to be engaged a lot more. It's going to be interesting because the challenge skills ratio is also applying to that, right? You want everybody to also have an equal role in the project. Some people who are going to be doing more, and then some people in the group who are going to be doing less. It skews the balance, and it doesn't really work in that way. So yeah, teamwork makes the dream work. That's all I gotta say about this one, okay? If you want to start to hang around other people and individuals who are pushing you to your capabilities and to your potential, that's going to be very, very crucial in your own growth, right? If you're in a group where everybody's kind of a beginner and you're an expert, you're going to feel bored there. So you want to challenge yourself. If you are in that specific environment, you got to give yourself more challenge to be able to truly be able to continue your progress and growth, and so you don't stagnate and go back to the level of everybody else in that group, right? And similarly, a lot of the times it's like, oh man, you want to do it for the participation trophy, or there's no winners or losers here. That's not really inspiring either. So you want to find a balance, you want to really be able to fully commit and be like, yeah, I participated fully, I have the skill of this team, and it was an exciting game, and it was head to head, and it was energizing, things were happening in the flow. That's what we want to get to, right? We want that teamwork again. So it comes from that sense of equal participation and skill level. Then we go into risk. Now, risk is a very interesting one because this is in regards to team risk, okay? So let's say that you have a particular scenario where you are all competing for something. Let's say you're in a bowling competition, for instance, right? There are certain people who are going to risk failing. That's going to actually put you into the flow state. You're challenging somebody who is a lot more energized and they have this sense of being engaged with that risk. Then you're going to have that risk, high risk meaning high reward as well. Okay, so you're going to be much more in that zone. Now, you don't want to take stupid risks, but you might want to take heroic risks, right? So it's the same risk that get someone to save someone from a burning building, and a stupid risk of, you getting drunk and going on the roof or whatever. You want to play this one very sincerely. So there's no creativity without failure. So in terms of the group flow, there's got to be this risk of failure. And, this risk doesn't have to be physical. It can also be a mental or a creative or an emotional risk. Like, let's say for an artist, they take a lot more of creative risk, but it's also an emotional risk, right? They want to be vulnerable with themselves and with their artwork and sharing it with others, and facing criticism and judgment from others. And so that's kind of an emotional risk, right? However, someone doing calculus, they're taking a very mental risk. And so in that sense, maybe they forgot to add the remainder to the equation, then the whole equation kind of is kaput, right? And in a sense, also, let's say that you're a coder, right? One little thing in the code that messes up, well, now the entire code is just ruined. With this sense of risk, you want to understand it differs in different arenas, so where you're applying that risk and what you're doing. For an athlete, the risk is very physical, right? Let's say you're rock climbing, you have this risk of injury, in a sense, if you fall. In that same way, athletes have a lot more of a physical risks, and artists might have much more emotional risks. And then you might have somebody who's doing something very heady or very logical take on much more of a mental risk. Then we go into close listening. Now, close listening is very similar to activated listening or active listening. Now, I talk about this in my book as well, how we have on-stage bodies and off-stage bodies. An on-stage body is a lot more activated and reactive. It's like you're fully engaged and you're leaning in. And that leaning in kind of shows people that you're really listening, right? In a sense, you want to, first of all, understand you're not just listening with your ears, but you're listening with your entire body. And this is where presence comes in. You really want to listen to what is being said, simply. The way you do that is fully engaging with what is happening. Listening not just to the words, but to the subtext too, because there is verbal communication, there's also nonverbal. So really listening to what is being said, and not just with the ears and with the sounds of what you're hearing from them through their mouth holes, right? But instead, you're also hearing what they have to say in terms of like how they're holding their body posture and how they might be, jittering on one foot or anything like that. You'll notice in their mannerisms and their body language as well as just their language, okay? The last one is very interesting. I got into theater by really being interested in theater sports and improvisation and like mimicking voices. It's always very fun for me. And so there's this rule in improv called always say yes, and it's basically the rule of yes and. So let's say if you have someone in a scene say, "Oh my God, that's a dragon." You want to be like, "Yes, and it's coming right towards us," instead of saying, "No, that's not a dragon, bro." That kills the scene. If you're saying no, if you're resisting what is happening. So similarly, in a group flow setting, if you're adding to an engaging and addictive conversation, not an argumentative conversation, you're basically agreeing with them, and then you're giving your own take, right? So you're not resisting it, you're accepting it, and then you're adding. Accepting and adding, accepting and adding. This builds the sense of momentum, togetherness, and it also intensifies other people's ideas and insights and action. So once you can do that and you can be like, yes, and this, and yes, and that, you're adding on top of it and you're adding value. That's really important in terms of a business, in terms of a sports team, in terms of a theater troupe, whatever you guys have going in terms of your group. Even in a coaching mastermind, you have these people bouncing ideas off of each other, right? And saying yes, and this, and yes, and that. And it's adding this intense level of innovation. The next one that I'm going to talk about in another video is going to be all about creativity because it's a flow trigger by itself, and I have a lot to say about that. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have an amazing rest of your day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary.